What's up? What's up? I'm excited to be here today, and I have a very special guest, Jordanna Espinosa. Did I say no? I didn't say that. I butchered it that time. I said it
That's
right
okay.
before we came on. She was on Play to Win season 2 with me, and is just a powerhouse. Her and her husband have done some amazing things over the course of their career, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that with you today, Jordanna,
Mm-hmm.
and just all the things that you and Leo have had to overcome. And you're an ambassador not only for the industry, but for people that are hearing impaired, as well as Spanish speakers, because you're doing a whole thing with the Higdon group with Spanish speaking stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Yeah. So I want you to just briefly introduce yourself to everybody that's watching. Let us know a little bit about your background and your third child, if you want to. We can talk about him a little bit, and then we'll kind of get into the meat of what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, excellent, great. Hey, everybody, I'm Jordanna Espinosa. That's how you say my name.
I had it right.
Anyhow, it's like Jordanna Espinosa. I mean, like, I respond to everything, you know. If it's close enough, I respond.
Yeah.
And so, but as John mentioned, I was born hard of hearing, or born partially deaf. I don't know what the PC term is nowadays. But, but since the age of 4, I've worn hearing aids. And so throughout my life, I've kind of turned that, that weakness into a strength, although I've had my ups and downs. But, that kind of, I've kind of used that to my advantage in my life. It's kind of driven me to achieve things that, people told me that I could do, because I was like, haterade is my Gatorade, like underestimate me, that'll be fun. And so even in the way that I speak, sometimes it's due to the hearing impairment, but that is also a gift as well, because that helps people to pay attention to me and focus on me. It's distinctive. And then also, as I'm going to go on, it's helped me in Spanish as well. So when I learned Spanish, it actually helped me to have less of an American accent. So now I sound like a Spaniard when I speak Spanish. And so that's been beneficial. But, in college at BYU, I met my husband, Leo Espinosa. He was studying marketing, and I was studying humanities. And so I had just gotten back from a semester in Mexico teaching English. So I came back and I met him. He's from Mexico, and we just kind of really hit off. And, I knew from within the first couple of dates that he was the guy that I wanted to marry. And so it was just a matter of time for me to show up and convince him that he wanted to marry me. And so we got married a couple of years after meeting, and he started a job with a company that we're with right now. He started a job in the call center just because he needed to have a job so that we could get married. He's very traditional in that aspect. So he didn't want to get married and not have a job. So he was looking, nothing came up until this position in the call center at the company opened up. So I was like, well, want to get married? Take the job. And so he did. And then he ended up moving up in that company. We lived in Mexico, and then he finished as international director within that company. And I had taken on the role of a stay-at-home mom of our young child at the time, which is our oldest, Thiago. He's now 12, almost 13. And so I had taken on the role of stay-at-home mom, and he was the international director, traveling 2-3 weeks. But we began to see that the corporate lifestyle was not the lifestyle that we wanted for ourselves. And so the more that he moved up in the corporate ladder, the less time he was at home, the less time he had, more time he was traveling. And then he even shared the story that he got to see our son's first steps through Skype while he was in Japan. And so the company that he was working for, actually happened to be a network marketing company, which is the company that we're with now. And so I began to study the network marketing industry, and I began to study the stories of the people in the company. I got to know them. And one day I said to Leo, well, hey, so if they can do it, if a security guard can do it, if a nanny can do it, if a veterinarian can do it, why not us? What makes them different than us? So why can't we do it? And so we began the process of making the switch. And so it was something that we couldn't do our business, build our business alongside his job, because it would have been a conflict of interest.
Sure.
We researched other companies, and the one that we're with is the one that we wanted to stay with, because we believed in the founders, the products, everything. So we made the decision March 10th, 2010. He quit his job and we started from zero as distributors. And so you can imagine that was not your typical path for most people in this industry.
Yeah, really.
So he had to quit a job, and we moved to Florida to be closer to our mentors, and we began building the business. And so we kind of, after about 5 years, we reached the second highest rank in our company. But the interesting thing is that we were doing this all the very traditional way. We talk about the Amway style, which is like the home meetings, the presentation, very much one-on-one meetings, rallies, conventions, in-person events, without leveraging social media. And so we had built it that way, but after time went on, we saw that Facebook really began to take off, Instagram, and we was like, there has to be a better way to do this, because building the traditional way does take a lot of time and effort. And so we knew that there had to be a way that we could leverage social media. So I began to start looking. And so, interestingly enough, in 2012, we moved to Peru to support our business for 15 months. And, we just had a leader that was growing there. So we just moved to Peru. I had my son in preschool there. Within 3 weeks, we're speaking like a little Peruvian, which is so cute. But where was I going with that? Oh, but one of the books that I had purchased for me to read while I was in Peru was this book called Vibrational Money Mindset, which is like Think and Grow Rich for Network Marketers, written by Ray Higdon. Right. So that's my first exposure to Ray Higdon. And now I actually have never made it through that book. I'm sad to say, I'm sorry, Ray, I'm sorry. But a few years later, come about like 2018, I hear one of my uplines, Jeff Alcovers, mention Ray and Rankmakers in convention. And so that was the second time that the name Ray and Rainmakers was put into my mind. Now, I didn't join then either. It wasn't until I was talking to somebody in corporate in our company about social media. He's like, what, just go join Facebook groups. So I began searching Facebook groups, network marketing. And I find this group, which is now defunct, called Network Marketing Alliance. Now, they have transitioned it to a paid group called Leaders League. But in that group is for people who earn $100,000 or more in network marketing. It's for an exclusive group, and it's headed by Rebecca Woods, who's of the Higdon group. So I kind of went backwards. I joined Network Marketing Alliance. And then from there, I heard about Rankmakers again, and everything began to click. And so I joined Rankmakers, and I began listening to it. I began listening to Ray. And, most people in relationships know that there's usually one partner that's like more advanced than others in certain areas. And so I began to sense that this Rankmakers and what Ray was teaching about culture, about the way to approach network marketing and social media, I knew that it was how I wanted to move forward in our business, but Leo wasn't quite convinced yet. So I started listening to the Ray dailies really loud with Leo in the background, hoping that he would catch on. And so he did. He began to catch on,
right,
and began to listen. And then season 1 of Play to Win comes, and for some reason, Leo auditions. He really didn't intend to. And so he really wasn't a rank maker at the time. He's really as involved as some of the other people. But he gets on the show, and he does quite well. And so from there, we go to Rankmakers Live, and we become Top Earner Club, which is another paid group, the Top Level Mastermind. I'm wearing my Top Earner Club shirt. Top Level Mastermind that Ray and Jessica have. And so from there, we were able to continue to grow. And so when this pandemic happened, we were able to switch almost 100% over to social media, to growing our business through social media. And so in 1 month, our business doubled, because all of a sudden we were teaching, we were ready. We had learned the things, thanks to Ray and thanks to Rainmakers and thanks to Top Earner Club, that we could just implement all of these things, and our business grew and continues to grow through this pandemic, while other people who have depended on in-person meetings have suffered because they're no longer able to meet in person. And so our team is mostly Spanish speaking at this point, and so we have really pushed for translation of Rankmakers Live last year, so we could bring our team, and then we were to kind of keep pushing and poking. I mean, I'm not with the Higdon group in an official capacity, but just kind of like a fly in the ear. So we have released Rankmakers Espanol, where the Ray dailies are translated into Spanish with Spanish subtitles or an extra fee per month, or if you're not a Rankmaker, then just like a lower fee, which is to make it more affordable for people in Latin America who don't have the same level of income that we do here in the United States.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that was my long introduction. That was my long story.
It's okay. So I've got just a couple of like personal questions just as you were talking. So
Yeah.
because I'm completely ignorant, when you sign in English, is it the same when you sign in Spanish, or do they have a Spanish, like independent Spanish sign language? So does every country?
I think so. I mean, that's the funny thing. I don't actually sign. I know a few signs here and there.
Oh, okay.
But I was born to hearing parents, and so I was raised in a hearing culture, and so I was raised trying to prove myself in a hearing culture, and so I never really learned to sign. I never really had an interest in it. And in fact, when I was at BYU, I took a semester of sign language and a semester of Spanish, and so I picked Spanish and I dropped the sign language because I still kind of grew up with that stigma. And so it kind of takes time to overcome that stigma of like the mute or something. I don't know. And so it's kind of sorry to say, but I never did learn. But from what I have learned, though, each language has its own signs. And even like British Sign Language is different than American Sign Language.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
I didn't know. So, I mean, you've kind of already talked about this, but I want to focus a little bit more about it. So your husband was on season 1 of Play to Win with Ray, which was radically different than season 2. So when he comes back from season 1 and he tells you about everything that goes down, you see the release of the show, and then you decide to apply for season 2?
Well, that's funny. I wasn't even intending on applying for season 2, but it's one of those things like, divine forces, I think, just kind of pushed me in that direction. Like, I just found myself one day just recording my video, and, I really didn't want to be on the show. I didn't really want to be a center of attention. I kind of was happy with my position. It's kind of like being the behind the scenes and letting Leo have the spotlight. But he's a charismatic person, people person. I'm the number person, although apparently I have charisma too. But anyhow, I found myself applying for the show kind of with the angle of, I'm going to finish what Leo started. And, I didn't really expect to be accepted onto the show. And it was a kind of surprise for me to be accepted, first of all, and then show up and realize, oh, hey, I'm actually a very strong contender, I should say. And so it's been a radical growth for me in how I see myself, how I value myself, my self-worth, my self-esteem. And so I really began to see, after being on the show as well, that I do have a lot to offer. And, it's been a great experience, but it's not one that I actually ever intended to do.
That's so funny. So you've actually known Ray, I think, out of everybody who I've interviewed so far, it seems like you've probably known Ray and Jess the longest. Sounds like 5 years, 4 years.
Well, I mean, as Top Earner Club only since last October, so like directly knowing him. And in fact, in preparation for the show, I very specifically stopped talking to Ray because I didn't want to be seen as having an advantage. But I've known of them since like 2012, but not really started following them until 2018. So about 2 years.
All right. So how long have you been a Rainmaker? 2 years now?
I think about 2 years now. 2 years now.
So
and it's just been
go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh no, I was just going to say, and it's just been a radical change in the way that we approach business, the way they approach the way that we were thinking. We were starting to fall out of love with the industry. It wasn't fun anymore. And so Ray kind of came in, the way he approaches things, the way he approaches leadership, social media, the organizational culture, team building. It kind of made it fun again. And so we're actually falling in love with the industry. And so we're in love with what we're doing, and we love helping our people, and we love celebrating them and seeing their wins.
So what do you think, 2 years in Rankmakers is a pretty good amount of time. What do you think the number one lesson you've learned from being in Rankmakers, involved with Ray, all that kind of stuff? What do you think the number one lesson you've learned is?
You know what? Actually, honestly, I think it's like, organizational culture, celebrating the small wins, celebrating the slow wins, as well as the fast ones. The 80-15-5 law, where basically 80% of your organization just wants to be a part of a club, a social club. They have desires to make zero to $500 a month. They just want to try the product. They just want to be a part of something. And so that was a revelation to me, because the way that our team at large, not our team specifically, the way that our team at large, that all the messages, all the rallies, all the things were very directed towards the percenters. And
Yeah.
so I could see that people were getting frustrated because, either they weren't performing at the 5% level, or they just didn't want to be and they felt pressured to. So our retention was not as high as it is now. And so now that we started celebrating just everybody and welcoming everybody and bringing people towards the campfire, we're finding that we're having better sign-up rates and better retention rates as well. So our workload has actually gone down. So I think that organizational culture was the biggest lesson that I've learned from Ray in the last couple of years.
Yeah, he really focuses on that a lot. And the way he approaches the psychology of relationships is so interesting. And, when you get to hear him and how he genuinely cares about people's life, that organizational philosophy that he promotes inside that group really becomes evident, I think. I haven't known and been involved very long. And so to hear some of those things from him and to watch how he kind of runs the show and the culture that he's creating, it really does make sense. And, that organizational culture is so important. So
it is.
Yeah.
And so I followed I followed other trainers in space, and you know what? I've kind of stopped following everybody. Because Ray's the one that really just, like, I told him this before, like, he speaks to me the most, like, sincerity shows through the camera. I mean, he's a smart dude. But, like, sincerity, authenticity, the fact he shows up in a T-shirt, and I tell him, like, the fact that you let your daughter come in and be a special guest trainer sometimes, that kind of takes the pressure off of the rest of us. Because there's other trainers, their videos are all, like, music, produced, shiny suits, and I really didn't want to approach business that way. And so seeing Ray, the way that he approaches things, I was like, you know what? I relate to that. And I relate to his authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah. So now let's get into the show a little bit. You get accepted on the show.
Yes.
You've got that long ride on day one, 30, 45 minutes to the shooting location, which was this beautiful Airbnb that they had rented on the water. It was pretty amazing. So they line us up on this couch. You're sitting, I think you were sitting to my left, towards the end of the couch, right? You were sitting on the left. I'm pretty sure you were.
Yeah, that was day 3 then, because you were on day 2 and I was on day 1, the very first day.
So day one, your day one, you're looking around the room. What's going through your mind?
Honestly, I was like, I'm a very strong contender. Like, what's going through my mind is like, I think I could actually do this. But I was also, not to sound prideful, but, I felt like I had a lot to give. I felt like I was the most prepared, because I showed up for my first interview with, like, prepared my action plan, with a copy for everybody. But honestly, I was just very impressed by everybody and their stories, the connections. We're on the same boat. And so, there's that connection between all of us now that nobody can explain, that nobody can understand unless you're on that show. And I found myself kind of taking on like a mother hen role, like taking care of people in a sense, and like, just making sure that people are okay, listening to them. But, really sitting on that couch, I was in awe, and I felt like it was an honor to be there. Ray and Jess are like my top mentors, and so I value their opinion. So I value what they say. So I was also a little bit nervous too, because what if they don't like me? And so, okay, so as you can tell, lots of thoughts are going on in my head on that couch. Not one single thought. Lots of things.
So did you actually, so on your day one, which was Sunday, did you actually know some of the other people in the room from being at Rankmaker Live and being in Rankmakers? Like, were there, and maybe not even on day one, but even on day two, did you actually know the other contestants?
Not really. Like we had gone, kind of introduced ourselves to each other previously, and so I had connected with Jennifer, with Jen, and so we had hung out before the show, and then I actually roomed with Marilyn, before the show, before they started paying for our room, and so that was a blessing too because we connected instantly, but it was kind of nerve-wracking as well. But it's like as far as actually having known anybody before the show for a long time, I didn't. It was just, they were all connections that we made starting on Sunday and then throughout that week.
Yeah. So day one, sitting on your couch, who'd you think was the biggest threat in the room?
Let's see, day one, of my group, not the biggest threat, but I think that, like I would say, honestly, I think it was Kelly. Like, I think people have mentioned Kelly before. Ray, like you're going to see in the show, Ray almost blew off. She's very smart, and so I can see that. She's very smart. She can pivot. She'll take things and she'll change. She makes a change, and I've seen a huge amount of growth in her the past few months. But also, I thought I was the biggest threat.
Right. All right. Cool. So day three comes around. Where they then merged day one and day two, my day one, whole new environment, right? Because you're taking two groups of people that connected and then you're throwing them in with no connection. How did that strike you?
It kind of struck me as interesting, but it was like this team one crew and the team two crew. We were kind of like separate at first, and then we started like mingling, getting to know each other. Not like forming alliances, but just kind of forming new friendships and stuff. So I was kind of watching everybody in the dynamic. I was watching Michelle McKenzie, and I knew that she had won, several other contests in the past, and so I knew that she was one to watch. She wasn't on my day, so I knew that she was one to watch because she's obviously smart. If she won the $20,000 Grant Cardone tickets, and then I saw this dude. He was napping on the couch, like this dude John Renton. And so,
nobody thought I was a threat. I was over there sleeping.
Well, I don't know. One of the things I was like, either he's going to get booted up quickly or there's something that he knows that I don't know. So I kind of kept my eye on you as well.
That's funny.
So, I knew that you were obviously tough.
Yeah, right.
And then I heard from somebody that you said that I was killer. So I was like, I knew that you were watching all of us as well.
I watched everybody from the so I don't know if you heard this in some of the previous interviews, but apparently there were emails going out, and I never got one email the entire show. And so everybody I just assumed, we're going to start early because we're filming all day. So I meandered down and started asking questions because I didn't know. And everybody was in there talking to each other. And I was like, man, I'm behind the power curve. It seemed like everybody had already made, friendships and alliances. And I was just sitting there in that, that Red Roof Hotel going, all right, so I'm going to have to do some work. And so when I went into day one, I was watching everybody and their mannerisms and who had confidence and who wasn't. And on day two, I took a very similar approach. I took a step back, my day two, your day three. And I wanted to evaluate the way that people were acting and see who had confidence and, those kind of things. So,
because
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because, this kind of reality show, it's not like other reality shows in which, you have to destroy other people to win the competition, right? And so, that's not what the Higdon Group is all about. That's not what Rainmaker is about or network marketing industry is about. So it wasn't even going to be like a matter of who, exploiting other people's weaknesses. It was obviously going to be finding other people, their strengths, enhancing their strengths, synergizing with them. And because it's not about your individual performance, it's about if you can make your team look good and make the Higdon Group look good, then you are going to perform better.
Yeah. So what was your favorite moment on the show? Now, don't give away any vital details, right? We're still under a non-disclose because it's coming up here to release. But out of everything that transpired on the show, what was your favorite moment on the show?
Actual moments, I think is the, like day 3 or day 4 in which we had to face our fears. And so that made for some very memorable moments. And so it was a lot of fun to watch that. And then on the final day, our final challenge, just walking out and going, oh crap.
Yeah.
And they asked me before because it also could affect my hearing aids as well, this final challenge. That's all I will mention. And so we got some really good footage. I hope the footage of me in that final sales challenge makes it, because it was bomb. It was amazing. But overall, it's just my favorite part is just the hanging out with everybody. We just had some good conversations, just really bonded. It's just great people to be around.
They really were. So what do you think was the most nerve-wracking experience for you on the show?
Just sitting there on the couch, just waiting for the judgment of the judges.
Yeah.
Because like I said, most people, I don't really care. I don't really care what their opinions are of me, but because these are my mentors that I value them and I value their opinion. I was like, what are they going to say? Are they going to tear me apart? What are they going to do? So that was the most nerve-wracking for me, is like, when they pick the winners of each challenge. And then also the team picking too, because it kind of brought me back to, grade school, where I would be like picked last, like, please don't pick me last, please don't pick me last.
Right.
And so the couches should be burned, because the couches hold a multitude of memories.
Right.
Nerve-wracking memories.
So show's over. Looking back at the experience of that week, what do you think is the greatest lesson you learned from being on the show?
To go after what you want. Jess said something about me. It's like, Jess said, you are fierce. When you want something, you go after it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I do. And so I have learned just to go after. It's like ready, or like, what was it, that book that you and I were talking about? It's like Ready, Fire, Aim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's rather than, I do have a tendency to procrastinate, to overthink, to overplan. And so I've learned just to kind of go after what I want and just do things. And then also, like, the second greatest lesson also was just to take my goals that I want and vision step them and actually take actionable steps toward them. Because I would have these big visions, these goals in mind, but I wouldn't be taking any action toward them. And so that's what really helped me with. And so I think, those two things as well has enabled us to double our volume, first month of the pandemic, and also like the month after the show. I mean, it was the show finished filming, I should say. And so it all happened at a very fortunate time.
Fortunate.
Yeah, fortunate. I was gonna say a different word, but I was just picking the easier one to say.
So you come out of the show, in an intense period of being grilled, being refined, being put under pressure, like all these different things happening on that show. What do you think changed the most for you after leaving the show?
I kind of hinted at it before, but I think I began to value myself more. Having been put in those situations and just seeing how well I did and how well I have prepared my entire life, which I think harkens back to the hearing impairment thing. I wanted to defy stereotypes of the deaf and dumb. And so I would work that much harder than other people to prove that I wasn't deaf and dumb. That's a very derogatory stereotype, but, unfortunately it exists. So I have done a lot of work on myself in, learning Spanish and just different things, sales techniques, presentations, public speaking as well. And, even just the way that I show up, just like, Danielle Delgado said in Rainmakers Live last year, all eyes on me and keep them there. And so before the show, I decided I would just make the red lipstick my trademark. And so all eyes on me, keep them there. So after the show, I kind of continued on with those things. Just seeing how well I did, I think just, I do have something to add. I do have value as a leader. I do have something to contribute to this industry, to our team, and I'm ready to step out into the spotlight. And so I've kind of taken my step to step out into the spotlight and share my story. Because the hearing impairment thing, I didn't go into the show either intending to become an ambassador for hearing impaired people. And so I kind of wanted to prove myself in the hearing world despite my abilities, right? Or despite my disabilities, whatnot. But I am seeing that there is a need for people like me to step up and share their stories. So where I can make that a strength as well. So I'm beginning to embrace myself, embrace my uniqueness, embrace my strengths, and step into the spotlight. So I kind of think I just said a whole lot right there, but yeah, I'm ready to step into the spotlight.
All right. So last question, which is unique to you only. So how much back and forth is there between you and Leo about performances on the show?
Actually, not that much. There's not that much. But we just kind of rib each other. We just kind of have fun, and so, when it comes to the show, I think maybe more so once the show comes out. But I think, like you said, like season 1 is just so drastically different than season 2 because the bond between all of us. Because season 1 they had 4 different days, 4 groups, 4 different days, and they picked the top 2 each day, and then they filmed the final. So, for example, Leo only got to know Michelle Culberson one day during the final day, whereas I got to know all of you guys over a period of several days. And so I think the show this year is going to be so drastically different than season 1. It's going to be so beneficial, not just for network marketers, but it's going to be for everybody in general as well. Yeah. So I think Leo will have to concede the point that season 2 is better than season 1.
There is no question that season 2 is better. And there's no question that the contestants were better.
Exactly.
Super competitive and anything. Doesn't even matter. So
exactly.
We can formally challenge season 1. You guys want to play? We'll kill you.
Exactly. So I think season 3 should be season 1 versus season 2.
From the way some of them talk, I'm not sure everybody would be down with that idea.
Or you and I would be. Like John and I will take everybody on, Rambo.
I don't care. Season 1 and season 2, whatever. So in the group, we have a group where we all stay connected and share what's going on. There's been a lot of nerves about the release of season 2 coming up. How about you? Where are you at with that? How do you feel about the upcoming release of the show? Are you nervous? Are you paranoid? Do you feel like, they're like somebody's out to get you? I mean, talk to me about that.
Actually, it's kind of weird. I don't share those feelings. I feel very confident because I left it all on the table when I did the filming. And like I said, I felt like I did very well. I mean, I had my ups and downs, but I think I was trying to be very as authentic and transparent as I could be. And I know that I knew even during filming that it's not about me. And I knew that, True Market Media and the Higdon Group, they're going to edit us in the best light possible. But, I'm actually not that nervous. I'm excited to see, and I'm excited to see which moments they pull out. And so I really felt like I showed up. And so I'm proud of how I showed up.
Yeah, no, you're phenomenal. Like, it was a lot of fun watching everybody. Just to watch people get put through the ringer and to watch their response to it. And I think like you do, it would be to me, and I haven't known the Higdons nearly as long as anybody else, but it would seem very out of character to me if they let the editing company take and, out of everybody, I'd probably be the only ass on the show, but I don't see them doing that to anybody. I mean, it's still got to have drama. It's still got to be TV, but I really don't see that. And like you, I just feel like I showed up, I did what I did, and it is what it is. And then that's it. So, so it's just been kind of interesting, even in now that the show's over, how the emotions have continued to churn. And, come whenever they release this thing, I'll have my phone in one hand and the video in the other, watching everybody freak out. It's going to be hilarious. So,
they're going to make us all look good.
Yeah,
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much for coming on. And, like I said from the beginning, I really respect everything that you've done as an ambassador and pushing for Rankmakers to be bilingual and everything that you've done in the hearing impaired world. To me, those things are so impressive because many of us get to choose our disabilities. You didn't have that choice, and you're still able to push forward and be so successful. And for you and Leo to do everything that you've done, I've watched from a distance, and it's been great to watch you just really perform and do so well. So thanks.
Thank you so much, John.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Just stay on for a couple of extra seconds.